this week's episode of the Modern Dealer Podcast, David and I talk about selling cars during the COVID-19 pandemic. We Netflix and chill with the Tiger King. We talk about F-150 respirators, and David talks about 10 things he wants to complete during his quarantine. All that and more on this week's episode of the Modern Dealer Podcast. Welcome in to episode 039 of the Modern Dealer Podcast. My name is David Farmer with Entice, and with me remotely is David Bertoncini. How you doing, David?
Great, man. Just we're kind of under a self-quarantine right now. I mean, nothing, it's not mandatory, but we decided to keep our social distance and respect everything, and that's why I'm joining the studio remotely. And we made this decision actually today, last minute, and here we are, man. But hey, you know what? We got to give the audience, we got to give our viewers, our listeners, what they come to our channel for is some entertainment, some and to take away some information that can apply to their dealership immediately.
Absolutely. We got a lot of good information to cover today on the podcast. But before we get going, we all coffeeed up. We got our caffeine. I know I got my Pike Place coffee going on right now. I got a fresh cup. This is probably cup number 7 for today, maybe 8.
I don't know how you stay alive, David, but I went with typically I'm a to-go coffee type guy, but since I'm home, I've got the daddy cup with the daddy brew, and went old school, man.
Yeah, look at that.
Hey, man, we that's how we roll when you're on lockdown. So we went the old instant coffee style, and so we wanted to control the strength of the coffee. So you put sort of the recommended 1 or 2 scoops, 4 or 5 in there, and you're.
It reminds me back in the day when we were at the old Toyota store. We used to double batch the coffee. We used to take the coffee machine and we put like 8 scoops in that thing. Man, it was good stuff.
Oh yeah, that's what we did. We did the old double to triple batch. So that's how you roll it that way with the non-filter.
Yeah, exactly.
Coffee grinds that puts a little pep in the step. So
yeah.
Anyhow, oh my goodness, man, we've got some more stuff to cover.
We got some crazy shit going on right now. So let's see. Today is March 24th. It's about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, recording the podcast here. A lot of crazy stuff going on. Living really in the second week of this coronavirus quarantine for quarantine or lockdown, depending where you're at. I've been watching social media, other people in the industry. I'm seeing that some states are shutting down automotive dealers. They're not able to sell cars. Some are still able to sell cars. Some are able to service cars. There's a question whether or not car dealerships are essential. Service departments are in most cases. Sales departments, not so much in some cases. So I think everybody's just kind of trying to figure this out. Before we got, so I was able to do a little bit of research to find out what's going on in the automotive community, what's going on with some manufacturers, what's going on with some different states, and we'll cover all that. But one of the nice things about being able to kind of self-quarantine and not have you go out in the in the public very much is it gives you some time to get caught up on some Netflix shows. So what are you binging right now, Mr. Bertoncini?
It's funny is my wife and I we're going to finish up our old Schitt's Creek. I think we're on season 4. I think we're just hitting season 4 now in Schitt's Creek. We'll finish that up. That's what I'm doing at nighttime. But I did make a list. It was actually I made a top 10 list the other night. I did a Facebook Live on my personal Facebook, and I did my what am I going to do? What am I going to accomplish on my lockdown? And
watch TV.
I'm not I don't really get into a show that often. When I find myself getting into one, I'm kind of mad at myself. It's like, man, what else could I be doing right now to utilize this time? And I'm like, But my wife, I do have to respect the fact that sometimes she wants to Netflix and chill, and that's just how it rolls. But I did make a list of 10 things I will do while I'm on. Yeah. So this is my 10. I don't want to call it a to-do list. It's actually it is a complete list. What I will complete is my phone. I have 23,000 pictures on my phone. So I'm going to clean out several thousand pictures off my phone. I think I have 40,000 emails sitting there that I'm like, why do I have 40,000 emails? So let's clear out those 40,000 emails with the second thing. Third, I think I'm just do this like day by day to kind of pick up a few things. So I'm figuring this is on a 10-day shutdown. So day 3, clean out my closet, get rid of all those things like, I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that. But guess what? I got time. Got a bunch of papers I'm going to file and get rid of. I'm going to learn a couple things. I'm going to learn how to thread eyebrows.
Okay.
That's why I'm doing that because, my wife gets her eyebrows threaded, so she said, you're going to have to thread my eyebrows. I'm like, guess I better learn. So I'm going to YouTube how to do that.
That's the nice thing about YouTube, right? I mean, there's nothing you can't find out.
I actually I watched a YouTube video on how to take out stitches, and I took out stitches out of her eye one time. She had stitches, and we were during the hurricane one time I had to do that. So it was pretty funny. I'm going to learn a couple recipes.
There you go. Good.
Now, so since my favorite restaurants are shut down.
And hopefully you'll be able to get the ingredients you need, and you don't have to substitute like chicken giblets for chicken breast or anything like that.
Man, we've got I've got a couple pantries of food and
good for you.
So not worried about the substitute. Let's think I got all the ingredients right, but if not, hey, we'll go ramen noodles.
There you go.
Noodle it out. Got a couple funnels I got to finish building and finish up my digital course and finish my book. So I'm going to get some stuff over to my editor, like 4 chapters at a time. It's manuscript. It's the manuscript portion of it, but I'm just going to go ahead and finish the whole thing, get it done. So crush through that as the remainder of the lockdown goes on. But yeah, that's my 10 things I would like to accomplish while on lockdown. So totally off subject, but hey, this may help somebody out there.
Yep, absolutely. It's good to have a list to be able to go through and stay productive. I think that's one of the big problems that a lot of people are having when they're being quarantined is having the ability to stay productive. And talking about Netflix and chill, I have to bring this up because it's the funniest fucking shit I've seen in forever. Is the Tiger King? Have you seen this guy yet? The Tiger King? Oh my God!
And that guy was targeting to kill that big cat rescue, which is right down the street from you.
She's a fucking whack job, though. I don't. She's probably more wacky than the guy that tried to kill her.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is, that's the next show my wife wants to watch. I said,
you got to watch it. No, you got to. It's unbelievable. It is unbelievable. The cast of characters that are involved with this whole big cat culture. It's absolutely, it's unbelievable. It's amazing. You won't believe it. I mean, you'll be watching the whole show with your jaw on the floor. It's like, oh my God.
It reminds me already when I just looked at it and just read the previews or saw the previews. It reminded me of Making a Murderer. Did you see?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
That one's just.
It's as good as that, if not better.
You tucked into it, and you're like, why am I watching? It reminds me. There must be something in the water in Wisconsin because what the hell? There was not like the only person you could look at in the entire thing was the main character. Everybody else is like, what happened?
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah.
Is the water destroying those people's like minds and their teeth? Because I'm like, what's going on in Manitowoc County or whatever that is in Wisconsin?
Yeah, crazy shit. But yeah, so
your shit going on here with automotive, man.
Yes. Absolutely, yeah. So, I mean, if you're looking for something to watch, Netflix, Tiger King, I highly recommend it. So let's kind of get into some of the data that's out there right now. So looking at a quick update as it relates to automotive, I tried to put together a up-to-date list of what is shut down state by state. So we know that California Governor Gavin Newsom issued a statewide stay-at-home order on March 19th, shutting down all non-essential businesses. I don't know if dealerships are considered non-essential or not. I think that's still questionable in the state of California. In other states, it's not questionable, like PA. Pennsylvania shut down car dealerships specifically. I do think that they're able to have their service departments open, but sales departments are not open. I saw.
You don't need dealerships in Pennsylvania. You got horse and buggies. That's the whole.
That's true, right?
Right. See, there's an upside to this. How much will thrive.
Yep, exactly. Well, I did see from on Automotive News that there are a couple big dealership groups in PA that ultimately laid off hundreds, if not thousands of employees from dealerships right now. So, I mean, there's a lot of pain happening out there right now in our automotive community. Very challenging times. Whether it's going to last a week or it's going to last a month or it's going to last a couple months, we don't know at this point.
So I didn't get a chance to tell you this off camera, but I'll tell you this. I spoke with Tamir.
Oh, did you? Okay, good.
In Seattle yesterday, half hour. He informed me that his dealership laid him off and the entire sales staff has been laid off with instructions of how to apply for unemployment, that they will have unemployment to support them in these times. That's not the first time I've heard that. I've heard that from several dealer groups, some dealer groups in California, dealer groups in New Mexico, Utah, basically saying, hey, we're just going to have to lay off our staff. They'll have to file for unemployment. They even, some people said, hey, we're just going to fire you on paper. Take this time off. You're getting a check from unemployment, but that's, and then hopefully we'll reconvene more like, I think they said maybe May or early June. Late May, early June is when they plan on revisiting everybody's employment. And I guess kind of bring back on who you want to bring back on. But scary, man. It sucks. That's really, for the industry that we love and the people that we support. You and I are tight with a lot of dealers and salespeople and sales managers, and just to see lives like that,
it's tough. It's tough. I remember, 2008, 2009, the Great Recession. That was a tough time for me personally, tough time for a lot of people within automotive. We saw tons of dealerships close. It was a crazy time back then. I'm hoping that we don't see that same type of thing now, although even just through today, with everybody that's been laid off, I mean, you could say it's almost as bad for all of those people. It's a tough deal for sure.
This is clearly nobody in any of our lifetimes ever seen anything like this before.
We didn't anticipate this happening last week.
No. And when I heard it from the first dealer and he said, hey, we're firing our people on paper, I was like, huh? And then I heard from a second dealer, a third dealer, and I was like, wow. And then other dealers I've shared it with that are like, oh my, wow. They were just like, I guess that's a good idea for us to follow. So, I mean, that's probably going to be the play for your team. It sucks, man.
Yeah, it does.
That I hope these guys can survive on unemployment over the next, couple months and what they have saved up in their savings account. This is the time to constrict. I watched Grant Cardone yesterday do a live, but he was focused on his real estate portfolio. Right. And he was telling all of his guys that have, Grant says, I have $1 billion on loan out there, floating between 4 banks, $250 million apiece. And he said, basically, he told all these guys to call their mortgage companies and say, hey, let's work out some, I'm in it for the long haul. Let's work out skipping some payments. And I'm going to pass that on to my tenants, as far as investment properties we're going.
That'd be nice. Very good.
Yeah. So at least some good advice there from Grant and the real estate portfolio. But what can we do for our dealers, Dave? What can we do?
Well, I tell you, there's
good direction here.
I have some good ideas. I got 5 actionable ideas that dealers can utilize today at low cost. And these are the things that I would be looking at doing if I was running a dealership right now. I mean, I think that we kind of have to rethink how the process of selling cars is going to take place now and after coronavirus. But before we get to those things, I just wanted to go over a couple other updates as far as how people are being affected right now. So Michigan, as of yesterday, Monday, they also did a statewide shutdown. Specifically, sales are prohibited for Michigan car dealers. Ohio, that goes into effect tonight. 9 p.m. tonight, all dealerships must be closed. PA, like I said, Connecticut, Delaware, Illinois, Louisiana, New York, New Jersey have all followed suit. So all of the dealerships in those states are closed. I think that there are some auto dealer associations, whether it's national, NADA, or statewide, that are trying to work with the state and federal government to identify whether or not a dealership can stay open. And the whole goal is to allow dealerships to stay open, as consumers are going to need replacement vehicles, whether it's lease returns, lease replacements, and or just the essential need for basic transportation.
Like you had said in our NADA episode, this is the legislation that we needed from the NADA, from the National Auto Dealers Association, to go to the Hill and explain to legislation. This is we are essential. We need to stay open because we've got to keep obviously servicing the vehicles and keeping them on the road, but we've got to. Oops, still got me there.
Yep, we're good.
Had a battery warning pop up. I will take care of that there on the break. Don't you worry.
Yeah, we'll get plugged in.
But no, just keeping the stores open is something the NADA will have to fight for us as dealers.
Yep. Hopefully they can make some headway there. But it does have to be balanced between community good and business good. It's a very tough situation for the lawmakers deciding what to keep open. I think that there's people on both sides of the fence saying that, this really doesn't matter. Don't worry about the social distancing. Let's just get back, get back to life as normal. And then the other hand, you see what is happening with communities and states and countries that are not abiding by the social distancing and the shutting down. So it's a difficult situation for the people that's in charge of making these decisions. I don't envy them, but as a business owner myself, I need to do what I can to make sure that my people continue to get their paychecks, that we are able to continue to serve our dealer clients and help them, stay open with our services. We've actually seen an increase over the last week of dealer activity utilizing our tools because of the importance of the tool sets that we bring. Really allowing a dealership to conduct business online through our tool set. But just a couple another points on that. Toyota, they're idling plants. Mazda, they're idling plants not only in the U.S. but also in Japan, Mexico, and Thailand. India, they've closed down 1.3 billion people under lockdown. Ford, Fiat, Hyundai, Mercedes-Benz, all of them are also idling plants. So definitely some crazy stuff going on in automotive.
Lots of craziness there. There was one, and I'll have to kind of jump a little bit here on subject but off subject, but talking about the spreading of the diseases and everything. So there's one country which has done a very proactive job to prevent things from happening. And of all the countries in the world, you would have thought this would have been the last country to do an outstanding stand-up job. But El Salvador, the president of El Salvador, Nayib Bukele, I probably pronounced his name wrong, but he is the youngest president in the world. He had shut down the country about 10 days ago, locked all the borders, basically told his people, hey, don't worry about your mortgages or rent. That's going to be just, we're going to delay that. We're going to put it off for a bit. Don't worry about your electric bill, your water bill, your garbage, sewage, your utilities. Don't worry about all that. We're going to send you some checks, and we want everybody to stay in place. And they only had, as of now, they only had 2 cases out of 6 million people the country has. Yeah. So they're very proactive in locking everything down. The reason why is we're a very poor country. He says we get sick, that's the end of our country. We are ruined. because he doesn't have the medical, he doesn't have the hospitals, he doesn't
Oh,
have the
definitely
beds,
not.
he doesn't have any of that. No
Yeah.
respirators. There's zero. There's no N95 mask in that country. So just being proactive. And this actually, the reason why I'm stating that is because this actually ties into the episode of being a dealer that's either going to say, hey, I'm just going to kind of wait and see how this plays out, or being like the president of El Salvador, and he's like, hey, this is my country. I know as a small, country, I can't survive this. This would completely just, kill all my people. He says, you know what? I'd rather put lives ahead of the economy, and he made that move. So as a dealer, how do we come ahead of this, being proactive? And I've got some ideas that we'll share with in the next segment, along with my tips to how to stay proactive and ahead of this without just sitting on the sidelines waiting for what's the next thing to happen. Because I've heard some stores saying, well, we're just going to kind of stick our heads in the sand and just wait for the next thing.
Yep, same thing. Yes. No, you have to. Yeah. And what's interesting too is I think that now is the time for entrepreneurs really to dig deep and do what we do best, and that is to adapt and overcome all of the challenges. And I think that's what entrepreneurs really do best. But we really had a good 5 to 10 year recovery since the Great Recession, which I think, I don't want to say it's made our operators lazy, but a little bit laziness, because you can make poor decisions and still make your budget at the end of the month. You can still make money. But it's gonna give us an opportunity now to reevaluate our business model, reevaluate our vendors, our advertising, our expense structure. These are all the things that I'm sure all of the operators, all of the modern dealers are really looking at today. As we're recording that, I'm sure there are meetings going on all over the place. But I tell you what, I have some other information I wanted to cover with the in regards to the stock market, 3 things specifically that we've been covering. We're going to get to that right after we come back from the break. And then we're also going to move into 5 things that I would recommend operators be looking at. I know you got a couple things that you want to cover as well. So with that note, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back just right after the break.
Selling your car should be easy. Say hello to Express Cash Offer. You can trade in your old vehicle for a new one, or sell it to us. Either way, we'll buy your vehicle, even if you don't buy from us. You can get an Express Cash Offer for your trade-in that's good for 7 days. Here's how it works. Just upload some interior and exterior photos of your vehicle, along with a photo of your VIN and one of the odometer. Our professional used vehicle appraisers will review the information and provide you with an Express Cash Offer in just minutes. After a quick on-site inspection of your vehicle, we'll hand you a check, or you can trade it in for a new ride. With Express Cash Offer, we'll even take care of paying off your loan if you have one. Selling your car should be easy, and with Express Cash Offer, it is.
All right, welcome back into the second segment of 039 of the Modern Dealer Podcast. We're going to get right back into a couple of things that I've kind of used as a barometer over the last few weeks, and that's the stock market, looking at the overall Dow. So I always like to look, I'm an optimist really for everything. So I like to look at the positive side. Today, we're seeing a 1,300 point gain, a 7% point gain. Don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but I can tell you right now, before we started recording, we were looking at a 1,300 point increase, a 7% increase for the Dow, which is very cool. I'll also continue to look at Carvana stock. So, we've watched it go from the high back in mid-February of about $110, drop all the way down to just over $20 a share. last week, but today it's already bounced back up to $46 per share. So that's a 10%, or I'm sorry, a $10 increase, a 29% increase. So their overall market cap is $7 billion and at $45. So good for them. I think that you look at people that are investors. You know, they've pulled money out. They're shifting monies around. They're looking at industries that might thrive post coronavirus. Online car sales, probably something that makes a whole lot of sense, right?
Absolutely.
Ford stock is up 16%. $18 billion market cap, $4.68, still a very low share cost or value, but a high $18 billion market cap and up 16% today. So very cool to see some positives. Other news for Ford. They are going to keep North American plants shuttered beyond March 30th. So we're having some challenges there. Ford is partnering with GE and 3M to build ventilators, respirators, and face shields. Automaker said that it's going to use fans from the seats of F-150s and portable battery packs to build up to 1,000 respirators per month. It's also planning to make 100,000 face masks per week to help with an undisclosed number of ventilators.
Yeah, those just reading a couple of the numbers there, and if the F-150 factory is doing that, I know they build about 350,000 F-150s a year. So I mean, they could build, if they're using those fans. I don't know if they've got the availability to do. So that's like 7,600 a week. Yeah. Hopefully they can crank out about 7,600 of those battery packs for the respirators, and hopefully to an undisclosed number of ventilators. What's going to be supportive. The face masks are going to be great for the medical workers. And in my buildings, you see in the background, I've got a lot of doctors that live in my building, a lot of nurses, which I'm staying my social distance times 4 from, just because they are on the front lines. They are the ones that are fighting this battle. So
yeah, the front lines, that's making it tough. I mean, you look at the people
of those guys, which are hopefully we can get enough of these.
Yeah, you look at the people that are on the front lines right now, whether it's medical people. As you said, I think we have a little lag in our communication, so we'll just have to kind of deal with it. And I'm sure this is the same thing that people are dealing with at work right now, is that, trying to do Zoom meetings, trying to do Google My Business meetings, or Google Hangout meetings or GoTo meetings to try to, stay productive. But as you were saying, the frontline workers, and not only just the medical workers, but, people that are working at grocery stores, working at Walmart, Target, these retail outlets where we need to go out and get food. I actually just saw a text come in just a second ago from my wife. She made a supplies run today to make sure that we have supplies at the house, and it's worse she's ever seen it. So worse today than it was last week and the week before. No poultry, no eggs, no dairy. So it's tough out there right now, and it's definitely a scary time.
Definitely a scary time. Little tip for people out there: if they need to go shopping, try the small markets, the little Spanish stores. They always have
bodega.
Have your supplies. Go to the bodegas. They carry everything.
All right, cool. So one of the things that I thought we'd kick off are tips for car dealers dealing with the coronavirus. There's an Automotive News article yesterday, and the title is time is now for dealers to do online retail right. It's a great little article, a couple little snippets of information I pulled out of it. So some marginally capitalized dealers might not survive more than a few weeks under these circumstances. And I think if I remember correctly, there's 1,000 plus dealerships that closed back in the Great Recession. And I think that's a really good idea. As I know that Alex, our VP of operations, he was he was a Marine, 10 years, 3 tours of duty in Iraq. He worked at CENTCOM. Occasionally, he'll get called in. I don't know if this is top secret or not, but occasionally he'll get called to be a subject matter expert. A few different things that he was doing in logistics. Anyways, he was talking to his one of his generals there at CENTCOM, and the conversation, generally speaking, generally speaking, yeah, a little pun. But he was saying is, what can we learn from last time this happened to us? The car business is always going to come back. People need cars. It's not an industry that's going to go away. What are some lessons learned last time around? And I think that's what my recommendation would be for dealers is, the dealer managers, operators, what were you doing prior to cash for clunkers? And I think that's those are the types of things that we can learn from, is that we know that the business is going to come back, but what can you do right now to tighten your belt to become more effective? Anyways, going back to this article right here, he asks the question, how prepared is your dealership to transact online? This is not just about having a little chat pop-up window on your website that is handled by a third-party provider. Again, asks the questions, does your dealership have a process by which you can appraise a customer's car remotely? Do you have a process by which you can take a car to a customer's home for a test drive? Can a customer complete the entire transaction without stepping into the dealership showroom? The same goes for service. Can a customer's car be picked up or pre-diagnosed remotely without an exorbitant tow bill? These are the things, and these are the questions I think dealers need to be asking themselves. And I think a lot of dealerships are asking these questions as we've been talking to dealers this last week and implementing some of our tools and technologies to be able to accomplish test drives at home, how to appraise cars remotely with Express Cash Offer and Express Test Drive. These are things that dealerships can do utilizing technologies, or try to dig deep and figure out just an internal process that doesn't rely on technology to be able to accomplish these goals.
Yeah. So as far as those chats and those pop-ups, like you said, be able to do an entire process remotely, and basically this is the grounds for a hybrid sales process.
Yeah,
is what I want to call it. So this is your new process, which doing business from here on out will be different. For a dealer to adopt a hybrid sales process, that's what my message will be with this article. Now it's time to do it right online. Now it's time to do it hybrid.
Yep. So one point that I wanted to bring up 3 or 4 episodes back when we covered the Google Dealer Playbook 2.0. One interesting statistic that I read or heard during the launch of that was that the number one most clicked upon item on a dealership's website is to close the chat box. Did you know that?
Yep. Yes. Actually, you had shared that with me before. Yeah, and it's nuts. Is nobody really wants to talk to that person, which I'm pretty sure everybody knows they're not at your dealership because they have a really good-looking person. And I guess if you're in Manchester County, Wisconsin, there's like no.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, funny stuff.
Sorry, right. Wisconsin. I apologize.
Yeah. Hey, yeah. I used to live in Wisconsin. I grew up there for a short time in Appleton. So I take offense to that.
Clearly, David, you did not drink the water.
Yeah. Oh, so we've talked about before with what I've done on Twitter. I'm not a big Twitter user. I try to do a better job. I try to use it to really, I try to leverage social media to help, create awareness for, our company, to get our, to get the message out there, use it to build a personal brand. Anyways, as you know, that I've done social media posts for salespeople over the last 6-8 months. I made a shift just the other day to selling cars after Corona as my hashtag. So you can just follow that hashtag or follow me at @EnticeCEO. And today, this is what my post was, and I thought this would be a good way to transition into, the tips that dealers can use. So, dealerships need to act like tech companies to thrive post-coronavirus. Evolve past the sales process from the 90s and embrace transparency, technology, social media to hack the business of selling cars. Become experts in YouTube, FaceTime, and Google Hangouts. And I think that really speaks volumes to what dealers should be focusing on today on how to be able to really dominate in a post-coronavirus business world. You agree?
I agree. And it's funny is when I read the line in this, what you wrote, evolve past the sales process from the 90s and embrace transparency and technology. So one of the big things, need to act like a tech company. So what triggers this thought in my mind is Domino's. So in 2006 or 2007, Domino's hired a new marketing manager. I can't remember his last name, but I believe his first name was Jack. A new marketing manager. When he took over Domino's, Domino's was kind of the bottom, one of the worst places to get a pizza from. Their big thing was 30 minutes or less. That was what they're trying to push, but their pizzas were terrible. So they actually said, look, we're no longer a pizza company. We are a tech company. That's when they made the shift for this marketing person. He says, look, he stuck with the same crew for 2 years into this whole shifting their marketing into a tech company. And we're going to use nowadays, they're using the pizza tracker. They're using those cars built by, I think it's smart cars with the ovens in them to keep the pizza hot. They completely changed. They said, look, we're a tech company.
That sells pizzas, right? A tech company that sells pizzas.
We're a tech company that sells. And that was all the way up until 2006. They were still on the 90s and the 80s plan of like, hey, faster, it's free, faster, it's free. That was the message. So for dealers to evolve like a tech company, follow that example from Domino's. That's what they did. They went, they completely changed everything. They said our pizza, if you put it in a different box, it actually tastes better than the boxes that we use. So they got rid of their boxes. They completely tore down their recipes, studied what was working really well. They did a lot of case studies and they said, hey, look, finally we got the right sauce. We got the right crust. We got the right ingredients. This is what we're going with. And they came out with a campaign, you may remember, came out during the Super Bowl in 2008. It was called Oh, Yes, We Did. And that's when they made that shift with the Oh, Yes, We Did campaign. Remember it? The Oh, Yes, We Did. That's when they made that shift to a quote unquote tech company that so happens to sell pizzas.
Yeah. So I was thinking,
you are a D2B that just happens to sell cars.
Yep. So as I was thinking through that, and you really think about, I first was going to say, let's evolve past the sales process of the 70s. And then I thought about the fact that, the sales process itself really has not changed all that much since the 50s or 60s through today. However, if we look back and we look at really what was some of the major shifts in the sales process over the past, half century, the one major shift is the internet, right? So the internet, we did see a shift in the 90s, mid to late 90s. We know that we're getting internet leads coming into the dealership. We were responding to them. People were starting into the sales process kind of from an entry point. But now that we're in 2020, this has been like our main topic with the Modern Dealer podcast for the last 39 episodes is what does that sales process look like today versus in the 90s. And I think today and this coronavirus is really the opportunity to kind of reboot what the sales process looks like. And think about how customers now, most of them are going to really engage digital and technology to start the sales process. The sales process that we grew up with in the 90s, very similar to like it was in the 70s, but it was really like this sequential process, right? So a customer came in, they started the process, meet and greet, selection, trade appraisal, demo drive, presentation of numbers, delivery in some form or fashion. But now we got customers that are engaging with technology, and maybe they're going to start the process around the trade value. Maybe they're going to start the process around, what they're, from a finance portion, getting their credit score, finding out if they can get pre-qualified. Maybe they're going to start on a test drive. So it's all of these different areas where they're going to start. So it's no longer this meet and greet. And what's really funny was as I started to think about it, is that even though we've been getting internet leads for 20, 25 years, 30 years in some cases, the process that a dealership have really created a scenario where all of those internet leads were kind of created equal, right? It didn't really matter where a customer entered the sales process, whether it was a trade appraisal lead or a schedule a test drive lead or a credit lead. It all kind of you kind of handled that lead the same way, right? Like, okay, thanks for contacting us at XYZ Toyota. My name is John. What can I help you with today? It's like, well, I already told you what you can help me with today. Let's move past that. And I think that's really the things that we can look to reboot and hack the business is, kind of rethink how we're responding to those customers. And I think the idea of what does that tech company employee look like? And I think just kind of, just think about that from a visual standpoint is like, let's say that you have a tech company, whatever tech company it is, what does that model employee look like? Somebody that's very tech savvy, that's very smart, has a very good way to communicate, understands technology, understands social media, understands how to use YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok to be able to communicate and, communicate with people and create connections. Wouldn't it be cool if a dealership really adopted that tech company model, and that's what the new salesperson looked like? Also, and I don't want to dominate here, I want to get your feedback on it, but also think about those tech company employees. They generally have flexibility. They're working in a flex schedule. They're working with some transparency. Even like an Apple Store employee, they're not running to do a TO when a customer asks a question about the new iMac Pro. Says, oh no, the customer can't leave until I get a TO. It's very open. It's very transparent. There's a lot of empowering that person to do the right thing. So I really love the idea of hacking the business of selling cars and modeling a dealership showroom around the idea of a tech company. So what are some of your thoughts around that, David? Man, we're already 20 minutes in.
Well, real fast on back to the tech company portion of it, I'm going to go back to the Domino's example. Jack, that marketing, the CMO of marketing for Domino's, eventually became the president of Domino's. That entire marketing was the "Oh Yes We Did" campaign was talking about how shitty their pizza was in the beginning, being transparent. And they're like, look, our pizza was terrible, and they were just like showing how pizza was. So like the whole "Oh Yes We Did" is we changed. Does that apply to what we're talking about? Well, you could show like the old Badger.
Yeah, Badger commercials, love that.
Yep. Yeah. Badger commercials. So a right message, and the message is like, hey, look, it's the whole old school, car sale guy thing. You can almost create that message of like, hey, look, this is what we used to be like, and you can, just do a clip of like a picture of a, from one of those old car movies,
used car,
selling cars, or whichever it was. We played a clip of used cars. Yes,
yeah,
yes, a clip of used cars. You could show that, but then just show like, this is our process now, and you show a salesperson, on FaceTime with the customer sitting in front of their desktop, walking the customer through a trade appraisal tool. Like, hey, look, I'm going to show you where to put it. Let me give you some tips on how to take the pictures, squat down and take it from this angle. Being a process expert with the new hybrid process is the way to evolve like a tech company, like you do in a Best Buy. And these guys are in there because they're like, Best Buy is looked at as the technical support. So being like a Best Buy employee, being like an Apple employee, being like that employee you would picture in your head that is part of a technical industry. We are a technical industry. When you buy a new vehicle, you get in there and that touch screen, you've got so many systems running through there. You got your HVAC system, you got your navigation, you've got your audio controls, you've got so many things happening. Just to be shown from a salesperson, you can basically do all these things like you're a technical expert, making a process, a whole new process, and that process being the hybrid process.
Yep, absolutely. And, that's exactly right. And, think about right now, we've built this model around an average car salesperson selling 8 to 10 cars a month. That's been the same forever. So really is how can you hack that and get to the point where your average sales per person is higher. And I think that, creating some transparency, creating empowerment with salespeople is what's going to make that happen. I'm sure that, the salespeople at Carvana are the average sales per person they have within their tech team is much higher. And I think that's where we need to get to as an industry, and that's where I would challenge dealers today is to, how can you retool or hack the process by creating this empowerment and transparency into the process. Now, I know that we're 23 minutes in. I'll let you cover what you want to cover real quick, and then I want to get into my 5 action ideas for selling during coronavirus.
One last thing, we'll close that portion of the segment out, is like Carvana, as all their billboards and advertising say 100% online, 0% salesperson, which you and I both know is bullshit. It's really, you could do like Carvana, which is 95% online, 10%, 5% in person, because they still got to have the guy deliver it to you. Got to, show me insurance. There we go. Okay, now you can take possession of your vehicle on the 7-day test drive. So other than that, let's moving on forward.
All right, 5 action ideas for selling during coronavirus, and I think these are some of the things that you can do free or cheap to really make a big impact. Number 1, simple. Make sure you go to your Google My Business page, update the hours, and then I would also recommend is use Google My Business to post content around what your dealership is doing for coronavirus precautions and preparedness. I don't think that you need to change your advertising to say, hey, we're safe for you to buy a car, but I think that content needs to be out there. You can do that on Facebook. You can do that on any other social media platform. Google My Business being a great social media platform. You can add posts around coronavirus precaution and preparedness. Things like if we touch your steering wheel, we're going to wipe it off. I would also recommend, getting a button that says something about not shaking hands and then incorporating that into the process. process, right? Thanks for visiting the dealership. We don't shake hands here because we are, we're practicing social distancing, but we really appreciate you coming here. Having a process specifically on how to address coronavirus precautions and preparedness. So that's tip number one for my action ideas is use Google My Business to update the hours to make sure that those are up to date. And make sure that you're using Google Posts to talk about coronavirus precautions and preparedness.
FaceTime.
Yep, number two, FaceTime. So this is a big deal, right? I don't think that we as an industry or we as a society have really adopted FaceTime to communicate. I think there's still a fear of sharing your face on video. I think we need to move past that and we need to embrace that, right? One way to think about this, and this is actually my number two and my number 5, which is utilize the Shure MV88 Plus. So if you have been watching the Modern Dealer podcast, you know that I brought this up before when we went to NADA to do some of our recordings there. This little device right here, and I'll go ahead and pull this up real quick. I'll just hold this up so everybody can see it. It's like less than $200 right now. It includes a really high quality microphone that you can plug right into an iPhone or a high quality smartphone. And then you also get this tripod that works as something to hold the camera as well. So this works great for creating video content. You can set up the microphone so you're facing yourself. You're able to get good quality audio. It's going to block out any of the noise that you might typically get on the showroom floor or out on the lot to be able to get high quality video. And it's easily uploadable right into YouTube. Also, you can use this for FaceTime. So you can set this right down right in front of your computer, and you can use that to be able to FaceTime in a very professional way. So don't try to replace the technology that's out there. Use the best, which is FaceTime, but embrace it so you can be communicating with customers right away and allow your salespeople, empower your salespeople to do that. So that's number 2 and number 5 is use the Shure MV88 for FaceTime. And then also use that for any other type of video conferencing. Which really kind of moves, transitions very smoothly right into tip number 3 and tip number 4. Tip number 3 being use Google Hangouts as a way to screen share. You could have your salespeople do it at home or right there in your BDC or on your showroom floor. If you have any type of digital retailing tools, you can help your customer build a deal by using a free tool from Google Hangouts and be able to share your screen kind of anonymously where a customer doesn't have to share their screen if they don't want to or their camera, but you have that technology built in and it's free. And then YouTube, of course, number 4 is record video walkarounds. You can publish these as private videos on YouTube, so they're not publicly available, but then your salespeople can share that video message to customers right by sharing the YouTube link. Every salesperson should have a YouTube account, and you create a Google account for the Google Hangouts. You create a Google account for YouTube as well, and create processes around creating customized walk-around videos, video test drives. These are all things that you can do for free or cheap, and then utilizing high quality technology just by an iPhone. And then my last thing, David, and I'll let you kind of get things wrapped up here, is that if you are a salesperson watching this, I think it's your duty, it's your responsibility to invest in tools and technology that you can use for yourself to help differentiate you from other salespeople. I would personally make sure that you got the latest and greatest iPhone and that you have this piece of technology right here so you can create your content and build build your own personal brand, become your own entrepreneur of, being that tech company CEO for XYZ selling cars in your area, right?
Right. And I will tell any salesperson out there is just remember this, your dealer's most likely you're going to cut your advertising budget in half or completely shut your advertising budget. So it's up to you if you still want to drive traffic to yourself and make yourself known. Follow these tips that Dave is giving about using YouTube, using Google Hangouts, Facebook. Get yourself out there because cut it off. You're not going to have any traffic coming in looking for you. The up bus is not running anymore. It's been quarantined.
Yep, absolutely. All right. So with that, David, we're 30 minutes into the second episode. It's going to be a little long episode today. We're using a little bit different technology, which allows us to go past the 30-minute mark, without a hard stop. So let's go ahead and get into Bert's 3 tips.
Ding, ding, ding. I love it, man. Hopefully we get some dings. But one of my favorite dings before I forget is this is the first time you've watched the Modern Dealer Podcast, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. We just crossed the 200 mark. Bam.
Yes, we did. Ding, ding,
ding. Some fireworks and things exploding there in the background. But my 3 tips is this. So number 1, if your dealership is like a lot of dealerships I deal with that are currently shut down, but your service and parts are still open, still dominate your market and drive traffic to your service department with an amazing service offer. Something like buy 3, get 1 free on tires. A free cabin interior filter might be pretty good. That's something that people may be concerned about. It's like, hey, make your vehicle coronavirus compliant. To replace your interior cabin filter. Secondly, your personnel. You may be laying off a lot of salespeople right now. See if there's an opportunity to transfer them to a different department. Maybe that salesperson, which was never that good on the floor, but could be your new social media manager and post every day what's happening at the dealership. Hey, sales is closed, but our service department is open. Interview techs, interview people in the parts department. Make it fun and make it look like, hey, I do want to go there. I do want to see some people because I'm tired of being cooped up in my house. I miss socializing a little bit. Would like to meet these people at a social distance. This is a great opportunity for you as a dealer to transfer some of the sales personnel that can't sell into a BDC. Make the BDC for service and drive service appointments and such right now. So, and my third tip is be like that president of El Salvador and be proactive and figure out, hey, what am I going to do to survive post Corona? Like David says, is selling cars, #selling cars after Corona virus. So how are you going to be proactive like the president of El Salvador? Do things, number 1, take care of your people, but number 2, embrace a new hybrid sales process that will be your process. And that's my 3 tips.
Awesome. Well, let's go ahead and get this thing wrapped up. So another episode in the books for David and
David.
That's a wrap.
Ew, David.